Okay, welcome everybody to another episode of Forever Bristol City podcast. We're recording it on Sunday morning after the final score at Ashton Gate. It finished City 1, Coventry City 1. We've got a full house today. I'm joined in my office by Tom Sutton. Mark's with us, and then we've also got Ian as usual, and then delighted to have a guest from All Things Sky Blue, where I did the preview with them earlier this week. And Mark Smith is joining us. Welcome aboard, Mark. Yeah, so good to have you on today.
Thanks, David. Morning, everyone. Yeah.
Good well, I'll get you to chirp first of all. What we normally say at the start of our podcast is just give us a quick, 30-second thoughts as you streamed out of Ashton Gate with 2,700 of your fellow Sky Blue fans. What were your thoughts as you came away from that game?
Very happy to get a point. It was a pretty poor performance in the first half. Second best. Never got started. Similar to the Stoke game than our previous away game. Looked lethargic. The substitutions made a massive difference to the game, and Casey Palmer took his goal very well. So overall, very happy to get the point. I knew it would be a difficult game, and obviously Bristol City had a decent start to the season. So and also we lost their last season. So for me, it's a point gained.
Excellent. All right, Ian, your thoughts very briefly before we get into the detail.
I thought the first half performance was absolutely excellent, and we were the best team in the final third throughout. I think our substitutions didn't galvanise us in the same way they did last week. Fally played well. Mehmeti was anonymous. George Earthy got the tire kicked out of him. I was going to say something else kicked out of him. And if you look at the stats, the most meaningful stats of the game were the saves per goalkeeper. Max O'Leary didn't make one. Dovin, who I thought was Coventry's man of the match, made 6. And the save from Fally in the second half, that I think he deflected onto the bar, was a fabulous save.
Okay.
So all in all, very pleased all round. But I think the one downside being that Rob Dickie left the field injured, and he's having his hamstring assessed. So we'll know about that next week.
Okay, Mark, your thoughts?
I thought City played sparkling football in the first half and created plenty of opportunities that should have seen us out of sight. A goal we scored deserved to win any match, but didn't. Like at Hull, we defended well for the most part, except for one slip, and it's 2 points dropped. But the football this season's been transformed. We've now had 42 shots on target in 3 games. We're entertained at Ashton Gate now. City are no longer boring.
Yeah. Mark, are you saying 42 on target or 42 in total?
42 shots on goal in 3 games.
On target. Yeah. Tom, what were your thoughts coming away from Ashton Gate, Tom?
There was a sense of disappointment, but I think that shows sort of the collective where we're at the minute, which is good to see. Because if you're almost disappointed walking away with a point against the top side, you know you're doing something right. And I thought for the best part of about 55 minutes we were in control. And I thought their subs galvanised them.
Again,
I thought their subs made a real impact, like they did in the cup game. And I thought when Casey Palmer came on, it started to get quite attritional. And I think Robins almost made it a battle out there. And I think we lost that battle. From when the subs came on, I felt that if the game had gone on longer, that we would have been on the end. I thought Naismith highlighted why he can't play in a back 4.
Which is what I've been saying for weeks.
Yeah, which is what we've
a bit berated for.
But I thought when the subs came on, that changed the game for them. And I thought that was the catalyst. But it was a good game of football. And it was a game of 2 halves completely, where we were cruising in the first half. And I thought, fantastic, lots of control there. And then their subs came on, and then they had this fight about them, this doggedness that you sometimes get with Robin's teams. And I was quite impressed by Coventry.
Yeah, Mark, what we do next, we talk about lineups. So you made a lot of changes for the cup game, and then obviously 5 of them came on and made the difference then. But no Jada Silva or Casey Palmer in your starting lineup. Was it a predictable lineup named by Mark Robins for yesterday's game?
I thought it was, yeah, because I felt it was he went unchanged from the previous game against Oxford, where we played really well. We were really on the front foot. It was a much different performance, and I think that's kind of why he did that. But looking back, I think Bidwell was not at his best. Well, he did make 1 or 2 decent tackles, I suppose. But yeah, Casey Palmer's. I think he's a better impact player coming off the bench, and I think yesterday proved that. He was really up for it. Obviously against his former club, he wants to do well. He took his goal well, but he doesn't always do enough really to start games for us. I just feel at times he has probably one good game in about 4 or 5, to be honest. So I wasn't surprised with the team lineup. I thought it was probably about the right side. That's probably the team I'd have gone for if I was Mark Robbins. So no complaints on that side.
No complaints with that. Ian, you and I were talking during the week, and I said, start the side that finished last week's game against Millwall, which would have seen Twine and Earthy on and sacrificing. I was thinking maybe Sykes and Mehmeti. Were you surprised at the lineup, Ian, when you saw it yesterday, or not really?
Not at all. I think one of the wide players was going to be left out to accommodate Scott Twine, and he picked on Mehmeti, and I thought it was Mark Sykes' best game of the season yesterday. Alongside, I thought it was Joe Williams and Jason Knight's best games of the season. So those were positives to me. And when you're playing a good side, you're not going to dominate the game for 90 minutes. In Coventry are a good side. They've invested a lot of money in that team. And in fairness, they've had to sell 2 of their best players to be able to do it. So, you have to look at it. I would say if you look after 20 games, you'll start to see whether it was a good point or a bad point. I think we should have won the game. But in fairness to Coventry, I thought their goalkeeper was superb. I think they practiced a few dark arts, especially around George Earthy. But and we should have had a penalty when Armstrong had his shirt pulled going through on goal. But the referee bottled that decision. And once again, that'll be another letter of apology we've got coming. So far this season, we've played 3 games. We've had 2 letters of apology for the refereeing already for Hull. And this is from the referee's assessor, not from fans or anybody like that. We've had 2 letters of apology from the PGMOL for the whole game and for the clown that gave the penalty last week, who I understand didn't have a game to referee this weekend.
Yeah.
So I think we've probably got another letter of apology coming.
Yeah.
And that would have obviously changed the game, although an interesting one. I've been interested to see who took the penalty with Tommy gone and Naki Wells not on the field. I think that would have been an interesting one.
All right. Well, interesting that Tommy, he came on as a sub for Borough, and he scored his first goal for them from a penalty spot. Mark, was there in your mind a case for playing George Earthy from the start? And, we'll talk about substitutions later on, but playing George Earthy, I thought he showed up really well later on against Millwall the previous week.
Yeah, he was very good impact sub, very hungry, fearless, wanting to get involved in the play. I think he had a shot that hit the post after we went 4-3 up. But I think Sykes, under threat from Earthy, did have his best game. He was really good yesterday. But I think the thing for me is you see the difference that we make in terms of fluidity when you play Twine and Max Bird. Play them both. The ball keeps moving. We're not looking just to shuffle wide. I think it's Tom picked up after the League Cup game against Coventry. We can play between the centre backs as well. And we're always looking to get players ahead of the ball. They play each other in. And they make us look so much better, those two players. I mean, it wasn't Twine's best game. But still, you look at the difference in the play and the chances with those 2.
If you think, Mark, there was like 9 minutes of time added on, and
I thought he said 5, and I didn't look at the clock.
We lost all our creativity. When
definitely.
And as Ian said, Earthy got well and truly splattered.
I think he cut off the ball by Casey Palmer, a bit naughty, wasn't it?
Yeah. Tom, the team, sort of picks itself to some extent. Were there any things about the starting lineup that you thought, Sykes keeping his place, Twine playing out wide, pushing Bird into a number 10 role, because he was very much up there, wasn't he?
No, I thought that's what it would be. I didn't think he'd start Earthy. I think Earthy has still got quite a lot of physical work to do to get up to championship standard. He shows real desire, but technically he's there, and you can see that he's ready. But physically, I think there's still. I mean, he is 19, just turning 20. So Twine off the left, I don't mind it because he plays not as a left winger, but he comes inside. Like Max Bird in the 10. Because I feel like if you get Twine and Bird close together, you see combinations. You don't want Twine over on the left field. You want Twine almost coming in off that left, almost playing as a second 10, like we did with the 3-4-2-1. And then you get the 2 10s pretty much. And you've got Sinclair, who again, I thought first off was fantastic. Powerful. And he just frightens defenders. I mean, Latabude was scared of Sinclair Armstrong. He got behind him numerous times. And I like Twine off the left because he comes in and he just brings this composure. And Max Bird, I'm a massive fan of in the 10. I think that easily could be his position for us. I think he's proven himself week on week in the 10. And I thought Williams was fantastic yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I said last week with Williams starting, I said we won't see him in the starting lineup for a while. And, he played well. He's good at what he does. We'll talk about the little fracas he had later on. Mark, that's Mark of All Things Sky Blue. We often say our team we're getting into the action now. We say our team don't take enough pot shots on goal, but early doors, we were dominant in the first half, but Dovin had to twice produce heroic saving from Bird and Tanner. Is he your first choice goalkeeper? Is he a good, safe pair of hands anyway?
He's our first choice goalkeeper at the moment. Yeah, we signed him from Sweden, and he's done pretty well, to be honest. I think what some fans may say, I'm not of this opinion where he doesn't always come out for corners. He likes to stay, because I noticed that when Bristol City had cut the corners, that they always had someone literally on the goalkeeper, and they're looking to sort of bend one in right under the goal, right under the crossbar. So I think that's possibly an area he probably needs to work a little bit, but really he's done really well. His distribution's good. I think the problem we had last season was Brad Collins or Ben Wilson, whoever was in goal, were great with the ball in possession. They're a little bit nervous. Teams would press them and they'd make mistakes. So Robin's wanted to address that. I think so far he's done well for us. I think he's always been about 7, 8 out of 10 performances from the games that I've seen him. I've been pretty impressed.
Yeah. So he's good when he needed to be, definitely. Ian, we have said Mark Tubby's alluded to the fact that we've had 42 shots in our first 3 league games of the season, and we have been accused in the past of not testing goalkeepers from distance, haven't we?
Yeah, we have, and it was something that we needed to add, and we've now got 2 players who are very good at that in Max Bird and Scott Twine, which is why I think as we develop, we will play with them as 2 10s behind a lone striker. That could mean a slight alteration in the midfield behind them, but I think we're capable of doing that, especially now we brought in Marcus McGuane. So I think I was enthused by that, and George Tanner can hit a ball and he can also cross a ball, and I've been saying that for a long time, and I know I get accused of being president of the George Tanner fan club, but he was up against a really tricky opponent yesterday, out on that left flank.
So had you right?
And Coventry paid thick end of £8 million for him, and you can see why. He's a good player. He's got a good touch, and he's a menace.
Yeah.
And as the game wore on, he did less and less, and that is. So, I often say when people say on here, well, we should have done this and we should have done that. Well, there's 11 other blokes out on the field and they won't let you. And yesterday, George Tanner didn't let him. And that was George's best game of the season, because I've been critical of him over the last 2 games. So I thought both the fullbacks, George Tanner and Pring, it was probably both their best games of the season yesterday.
Okay. Mark Tubby, that is Mark, it's good to. I mean, Bird has got a shot on him. We've seen it a few times now. I think he scored a goal for Derby in the playoffs stage from distance. Yeah, and overall, he's got quite a languid style, hasn't he? He doesn't charge around. But Ian's alluded to him and Twine playing as as 2 10s, and it does create selection problems. But it was good to see. It was good to see the goalkeeper tested so early on in the game. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting lots of shots on target and working keepers. I mean, previously, the goalkeepers we played against might have got hypothermia because of their lack of action. But now we're testing them. We're getting into positions where we're finding space and taking shots. And yeah, the really weird thing, I thought when I when I briefly looked at Derby before, I just thought he was a bit. He was a bit bigger built, but I think he's just gangly looking player. But he sort of glides around the pitch and got a great left foot shot. He's it's some of his passing, the way his ability to find space, and he's a real find for us. The only reason that we could get ahead of the queue to purchase him was to loan him back to Derby last season. But what a find! He's transformed the way that we play. Having one number.
He's only 23, Mark, isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got and of course you've got that familiarity with Jason Knight, played together at Derby, and if and when he comes into the team, Hayden Roberts, having spent a year on loan at Derby from Brighton as well. So, that's quite a nice thing where you got players that you can trust. But he looks like he's played for Bristol City for 2 or 3 seasons, Max Bird. He's just fitted so seamlessly into the team. But like I said, what he does is makes the ball move. He makes, he can play, he can bring other players into play, and we're not constantly just going side, cross. We're finding other ways to get behind defences, and it's brilliant.
It is good to watch. Tom, moving on, you talked about Armstrong terrorising, and I've got 3 incidents where he was set up by Twine through the middle. I think that's when he had the little shirt tug and he went down. They both got injured. I thought it looked really bad for Armstrong when he went down, and then Sykes put him through. I think when Sykes put him through, if he hadn't had that knock, he probably would have got the better of the centre half. And then he screwed one wide from a pass by Bird just before the interval. I mean, he's being played 60 minutes every game. We're having this switch. Do you think that, and he is having an impact? He's scaring defenders, but would you start Fally and then bring Armstrong on with 30 minutes remaining when teams are tiring? And what did you think of him yesterday? Those chances, because that could have given us an early lead if one of those had been converted.
I thought very good goalkeeping for the one where Twine plays him through, and I think Dobin comes out and smothers it, and then there's that clash. And I think he picked up quite a nasty impact injury because at full time he was really heavily limping.
Yeah.
But I think it is only that. I think it is an impact injury, so that won't be too long. But I like Armstrong from the start. If I had to choose between one of the 2 to start, I would choose Armstrong because he's going to physically tire defenders. And when you're physically tired, you mentally tire as well. So when Fally comes on, he's a different sort of striker. You're already physically knackered because you're running around after Armstrong the whole time. And you're thinking, right, I've got to change the way I play now. I played like this for 60 minutes, having to be, running constantly on the turn, whereas Fally's going to hold it up. I didn't think it was Fally's best game yesterday, but I think he still adds something.
Yeah.
And the thing he adds that I like is his willingness to shoot. There was one where he's got runners coming off him, but he takes it on his left foot. And although he goes only out for a corner, it's that willingness to shoot and his 2-footedness. I mean, that's a great, to get the contact on it from the save that Dobin made, that's a fantastic shot. Because that is so hard to judge. It comes over the defender's head. He's seen it late, and then he's made Bill hit it first time, and he hits it into the floor, and it bounces up. And it's a great save. But if I choose between the 2, I would choose Armstrong. I would always start Armstrong.
Mark of All Things Sky Blue. We talked about Dovin, and we had a free kick which ultimately led to the goal. Dovin saved a free kick 28 yards, judging that by the number of stripes on the pitch and where it was. You've got Jack Rudoni, we've got Scott Twine. I mean, did you paid, what did you pay for Rudoni? Was it about 5 mil or not quite as much as that?
Yeah, I think it's about 5 million. That's right. Yeah.
And do you see him as that sort of playmaker? Because he looked quite impressive, I thought, there today. He only came on as a sub in the cup game, but what did you think of him?
Rudoni, he didn't have one of his better games yesterday, if I have to be honest. I thought he gave the ball away too much. I felt our midfield trio of Victor Torp, Eccles, Rudoni were not at the races, particularly first half. It was very, very, very disappointing. but overall, he's done well for us. I think he'll improve. He'll be a good player for us this season. So I thought he did a good job on him. Yeah, I mean, I think there's more to come, but we desperately miss Ben Sheaf. I think that's the big thing for us. If Ben Sheaf is fit, I think that's potentially a difference between drawing and winning a game, because I think he's a massive player for us, and if we can get him fit, probably won't be fit for the Norwich game next week, but we might get him fit, I'd say, for the Watford game after the break. So yeah, he's a big player for us, and I think he probably plays a relatively good time with no Ben Sheaf.
Yeah. Are you missing Callum O'Hare, who left in the summer on out of contract, or was he a bit of an in and out player? A couple of Cov fans.
Personally speaking, I don't miss him, no, because yes, he did a good job for us. Helped us get promoted to the Championship from League One. But I think we've replaced him pretty well. We've got a lot of attacking options now. I think that's our strength. We've spent a lot of money on players going forward. I'm hoping that he will bring some players in defensively in that sort of central defensive midfield position, because for me that's a real problem area, and that's where I feel teams are exploiting us at the moment. They're pressing us, and we're not like how we've been played last two games away from home against Stoke and yourselves. We're not playing our way through the press. We're going long, and they go straight back to the red shirt, and we're having to defend again. And that's what the theme of the first half was. Although second half, I felt it changed twofold. One, obviously Dickie being injured, which was good, because I think Dickie's a really good player. And I think Casey Palmer coming on, he made two good substitutions, I felt, in the second half, where sort of 4 minutes after Dickie got off injured, we bring on Casey Palmer and we bring on Mason Clark, because Sakamoto couldn't get in the game either. He was very quiet. So that's where I felt we had, that's where I felt we came into our own a bit in the second half, and we could have nicked it at the end if Thomas Asante just had a better shot on target. Just pulled it wide, which is disappointing.
Yeah, but our high point came 2 minutes into injury time. It was that Scott Twine free kick turned away. Ian, don't see many of those, do we? And it continued the long distance thread, and it capped, as you said, one of George Tanner's best performances since he came to the club. I think it's nearly 3 years ago now.
Yeah, I've seen him hit a really good volley like that from further out and hit the bar before. So we know he can do it, and you don't get to play for Man United at all if you can't play football. And at a younger point in his career, he did. So great pickup from Carlisle by the recruitment team. Came in under Nigel Pearson. First year, we have to say, struggled to get fit. Did his hamstring twice, which isn't unusual at City. But he's now developed into, for me, the best one-on-one defender in the division. And I think the stats bear it out, with him at least being in the top three at all times as a one-on-one defender. People talk about his attacking attributes, and I think he should get forward more. And one of the reasons is he's actually a very good crosser of the ball as well, and we lack that. So I'd be unhappy if we sold George Tanner for 10 times what we bought him for.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment. And the way he carries on playing like that, unless we alter the defensive formation when he is fit, Ross McCrory is going to struggle to displace him. And looking at the bench, well, we can talk about stuff going forward, but it's starting to get a bit overcrowded, or some people are going to be unhappy. Mark, 9 times out of 10, or am I being harsh, shot like that goes into row Z, but he managed to get over the ball, which is why he kept it down, because the trajectory was... it was always going in, wasn't it, from the moment he left his boot after Latiboudier, if I've got the pronunciation right.
Latiboudier, yeah. The ball was in the set. The ball was in the centre of the goal, and Latiboudier heads it up. So when he comes onto the ball's dropping onto his foot. I mean, that's difficult for a striker, for a right-sided defender. I think his only goal was at Peterborough 2 years ago. He hits it on his instep. So, but he's got to get his knee over the ball so the ball doesn't go upwards up into the stands. It's brilliantly taken in the D to actually come in, hit the ball so sweetly, and it to fly in. Dovin had no chance. I think there was a City player down on the floor in front of him as well. I don't know who got knocked down, but the header is headed back by Latabodier, and he hits it sweetly in an arc, and it drops in. You know, if you're playing golf, it's almost like chipping from an eagle, and you've hitting it and it drops right into the hole. It was such a sweet shot.
Yeah.
And you think, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
But it was a brilliant goal.
Todd, good goal. And I tweeted, can we use that term now? Tweeted at half time. We deserved at least that, didn't we? And it was a polished first half and a stunning goal to end it. And the way the header went up was a bit like when Jason Knight's header from a corner went up and allowed the ball to drop to Watmore. He was slightly more left of goal, but hitting it on the volley, when they go in, they're spectacular to watch, aren't they?
Yeah, and it came from someone that I don't think many would predict had that in his locker. But fantastic volley. I must say that I did feel a bit bad for the goalkeeper because Dickey is lying in between his legs. So the guy cannot move pretty much. And that's what they were claiming for. They were claiming for an offside on Dickey. And if you do look at it, he is somewhat interfering with play. Because the goalkeeper can't move. Not that he would have saved it anyway. I think, you can't take anything away from the goal because that is just such good technique. I mean, that is impossible almost for any of us to try and recreate. That would go out for a throw most likely, but fantastic volley. And you could just see it was nothing less than what we deserved, I thought.
No.
Because we had better chances throughout the first half. We dealt with them fantastic defensively, I thought. Dickey and simply always struggle against Ellison. I think he had 4 and 4. And we dealt with them really, really well yesterday. And it gave us something to build off because we were tackling early, we were pressing early, we weren't letting them get this control that I think we allowed them to do second half. And fantastic goal by someone that usually doesn't produce them.
No. But a man of the match, I think somebody said on here, man of the match performance from him. So into the second half, I'm going to come to you again, Mark, in a moment when there's some stuff to talk about to do with Sky Blues. But Ian, it started in the worst possible way, didn't it? He was over my side over the Lansdowne, but Dickey pulled up. It looked quite innocuous to a point, but within 4 minutes he'd gone off, hadn't he? Yeah. So we got to hope that he's available. But do you think that increases the chances of us, with Rob Atkinson still being some way off, increases the chances of us going out and getting another defender before the window closes in 10 days' time or whenever it is?
If Rob Atkinson comes through the under-21 game unscathed, he'll at least be on the bench at Derby. So he's been training for about 3-4 weeks now. He had a slight groin niggle, which is why he stopped training, which is advisable for the time he'd been out. But I think Rob Atkinson, I don't think he'll come in and play, but I think he'll go on the bench. I think we were going to sign a centre-back anyway. But yeah, I think it does, particularly as I think a lot of ours, Naismith and Roberts, fit better in a 3 than they do in a 2. So the idea is to sign a tall, dominant centre back along the lines of another Rob Dickey, another Rob Atkinson, if you will, and then I think the squad will be done. Now I will put a caveat on it, because I said last week there was no way Taylor Gardner-Hickman was leaving. What I should have said is there's no way that Taylor Gardner's leaving without a replacement. So then we have to see in the squad who moves out. And I've got a feeling we could be reasonably busy next week, but I can only see one incoming unless we get an unexpected outgoing.
Do you think letting, or was it Knight LaBelle going out on loan to Crewe? I think it was Crewe, wasn't it? Do you think that, a good move for Knight LaBelle? And some people say we've had this obsession with Knight LaBelle being in the first team 20, but he would have been a half decent backup, wouldn't he? Or not? He's just too light. And we got Roberts. We got Roberts as well. And I know you say
Well, we've also got big 6'4" Campbell Slowey, who
Sorry.
clubs are queuing.
Campbell Slowey, that's the one I meant.
Clubs are queuing round the block now. Jamie Knight-Labelle did very well yesterday. I think for Crewe, they got their first point of the season in a 0-0 draw at Swindon. Now the game before, they brought him on after I think it was 38 minutes, and they were 4-0 down. So he did well. Talking about lone players, Josh Stokes had a hell of a game at Baptism of Fire, Cambridge against Blackpool. They drew 4-4 when he was brought on as a sub, and I think they might have been either 3 or 4 down at the time.
They were 4-1 down. I totally slipped my mind that he'd gone there, but they got back to 4-4. Yeah,
and I think that and so on the signing of on the sale of Taylor Gardner Hickman. He's gone out. There's no falling out or anything like that. The lad wanted to start games of football, and Liam Manning couldn't guarantee it for him here. So he's gone to Brum. It's a part of the country he obviously was born in and knows very well. We've got a good fee, a good sell-on, and a good add-on, and we've replaced him for nothing with Marcus McQuain from Oxford. So all round, I think that could work out well for the club.
Yeah.
And Taylor, which is important.
Yeah. When Mark, when Dickie went off, Mark Tully, I mean, Cal's the obvious replacement to come on with his experience, and I think Ian said Roberts doesn't play so well left side in a 4, but was that the obvious substitution? Really, wasn't it? Yes.
Yeah, I think is it. Unless you move Cam Pring a lot, you put Cam Pring down, bring Roberts on. I mean, he on a 1-on-1 he gets beaten for pace, and I remember Ellis Sims and Ross Stewart really tearing him one when Sunderland did his 3-2 2 seasons ago. He can get caught under the ball. I mean, he's a great passer. His defensive management's quite good, except in a foot race. Players can get behind him at times, which we saw at the end of the game. But he does make us look better. But the problem is I just don't like him there in a 2. And I think because of his injury record and the fact that Rob Atkinson's been out for 18 months, I think we need to get another centre back, a ball playing centre back. FFP allowing, I go and get McNally or spend some money and get a quality centre back. And it sounds easy, I know, but that'll make us a better team. And yeah, get another win in there, because it's just too much of a risk with those players who've just hardly played. I mean, Naismith's in the last 2 seasons, 35 appearances.
Not good enough.
It's not good, is it?
It's not good enough. Tom, you've got a thought for a centre half that could come in. What are your thoughts on this one?
You know, if we get McNally, he's expensive. For 3 million, I think. I don't think he's fantastic ball playing wise, but I think he's an astute defender. I don't know. It's tough because you look at it and you don't want to block up a pathway. You know, you've got Naismith, who I think is there. I don't think Naismith's fantastic in a back 4 as a centre back. And if you bring Naismith on, if you don't bring Naismith on, where does he play? I think he almost had to bring Naismith on, because otherwise, what's the point in having him in the 18? When Dickie gets injured, you naturally look at your bench and you go, Roberts would be my pick, but I know he doesn't trust Roberts in the back 4. And if Naismith doesn't come on, what's the point in having him? But I think it, like I said at the start, it highlights why we can't have Naismith at the back, because teams will pick on him as the weakness. And I think he showed still a bit of rust in his positioning. I saw Viner having to command the back line a lot that you'd expect from Naismith. With his experience, you'd expect him to almost take the mantle and control that back line. But I saw Viner stepping him up a lot. And it's tough, you know, because we spent quite heavily for us in this window. You don't want to almost knock yourself down and bring another body in. But do we need a centre-back? Yes. But do we need him for this season? Could you maybe hold it off a season, let Naismith go out on a free, and then you integrate someone like Knight Nobel back into the squad. It's a tough decision for the club, I think.
Well, for the managers, tough decision
for the management.
For Liam to do. Okay, second half, Dickey going off was a blow. We seemed to knock us out of our stride a bit. And then a mark of all things sky blue. We said you started to step up a gear, and Sims was wide, right, shot into the side netting. That was before Palmer came on. Was there a sense amongst the 2,500 fans that this game was there for the taking?
Yeah, I always felt we could get a point out of the game. You always felt you always believe. You never sort of don't believe that. But I think if he'd have kept it as it was at the start of the second half, and I would say we could have played till next week and we wouldn't have scored. So I thought the substitutions made a big difference because Torp didn't really have any impacts on the game, so which is why Palmer came on, played him sort of a bit further forward as a 10, and we started to look a bit better. I felt Bristol City were a bit more vulnerable, maybe. But I felt once we got the goal, I still felt that it was a game where we could have lost because we just kept giving the ball away all the time. And that's what frustrated me, right to the final whistle. The amount of times we give away fouls and we're just giving the ball away was really, really frustrating. So, I'm very happy to get a point because Bristol City is not an easy ground to get results out.
Casey Palmer, he was an enigma for us. He cost us 4.2 million, I think, if figures are to be.
No, it wasn't that much, Dave.
All right, Ian. Okay, well, it cost us a decent sum. You guys picked him up for nothing. He had a chant at Ashton Gate when he was here that I'm not going to repeat for a family audience, and he was getting stick. And our fans, is he a bit of an enigma up at whatever your stadium's called these days?
The Coventry Building Society Arena. Or the CBS is also more known as. Although the commentator thought it was the Rico for some bizarre reason, anyway. I agree. I think that's the opinion generally of the Val fans as well. We feel that he has about one good game, about 4 or 5. Some games he doesn't do anything. He doesn't really impact on the game. He doesn't work hard enough off the ball, I feel. Is my criticism of him. I think for us, he's not going to be a starter for us this season. I think he's going to be more of an impact substitution, and that's how I think Mark Robbins will see him. He's someone who, like yesterday when we're losing, when we're one down, and we need someone to make an impact. To give us that bit of impetus into a game. He's ideal for that scenario. He's good on set pieces and he's quite strong on the ball. And he is good going forward. I will give him that. And he scored a really good goal yesterday. I thought the melee, my personal opinion on the melee is I thought Williams, I thought could have been sent off. That's just my view. That was the opinion of a lot of our fans. But anyway, we'll come to that, I'm sure, in a bit.
Yeah.
But as far as Casey Palmer,
another player that cost us a few bob, but joined you. I mean, I guess he would have been ridiculous in size comparison against Armstrong. I think Armstrong had gone off by the time Jay came on, but is he a regular or he's obviously going to be in your squad? But what's the general view of Jay De Silva up there?
Well, my initial thoughts from last season was I thought he was pretty poor defensively, but pretty good going forward was my thought. And I think that Bidwell hasn't been particularly strong this season. But I think Jay De Silva is starting to look He's starting to looks like he's improved a bit. I think since we've brought in a new coaching team, he's looking better on the ball, a bit more confident, I would say. There's a possibility he could even start next game against Norwich, but he's not. He was pretty poor for us last season. There was just a few games. I think Preston, I remember at home, he was absolutely shocking. I think I would have played better than the left back, to be honest. He was really, really poor. But he wasn't very good. But I thought, from what I've seen from this season, he has improved a bit. In fairness,
that's good. That's good. Ian, we had the two conjurers, the playmakers in our team combining on the hour. It was a free kick routine, Twine. And then there was nobody picked up Bird, but it was marvelously executed move, and Bird bought a save from Dovin. But then we had the double substitution on 62 minutes, and Twine and Armstrong going off. Probably two of our most effective players, but you thought the substitution, certainly in Twine's case, because Armstrong, that seems to be when we made the change with Mayulu coming on. You thought Twine was taken off for tiredness rather than tactical, yes?
Yeah, I think Liam Manning's just being a wee bit careful with him because he's a very valuable player for us, and you don't want him playing tired. I think as he's here a bit longer, give it another month, and that won't be happening. And he's also, I mean, for my own, if it was me, I'd have brought on George Earthy, because if Twine's a 10, bring on George Earthy, who we signed as a 10. Anis, isn't having a great season, is he? Let's be honest.
No.
He's gone back to that one-trick pony thing of always coming inside on his right foot, and he doesn't get in. I mean, there was a great cross. I think it was Bird who might have played that ball across the box, and it was in their 6-yard box, and he's hanging around behind the fullback, and the fullback can clear it. And the exact same thing happened, but he wasn't even in the box at all in a previous game. So he frustrates me. I've got to be honest. I've seen the lad's got ability. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But for me, he's another Casey Palmer. He's one of these on his day. He can do something, and you go,
when is his day? You know, and I said,
well, if it's 5 times a season, that really won't work. And what I said in the match review on X is that you can see from the quality of players we're bringing in that if you cannot consistently play at the level of a Twine or a Bird or a Valley, you ain't going to get in the side.
No.
And I mean, one of the things that could be motivating Mark Sykes and should be motivating Anis is the fact that Yu Hirakawa will be back after the international break.
Yeah, I don't think he'll make the starting. I don't think he'll make the starting lineup up at Blackburn on the 14th. But if he's fit, he's got to be on the bench, Ian, hasn't he? Yeah.
Who's this?
Hirakawa.
Well, it depends how we do it, Derby. But I think, and most new players normally start on the bench, don't they? But you never know. If it doesn't go well at Derby, he may come in and start. Yeah. So there's pressure on both those because you can play either side. So I think it's time for players to look around them and think, right, am I at that level and can I stay at that level consistently? And I think this is another reason that they were prepared to let Taylor Gardner-Hickman go. Yeah. Because it's a matter of, can you come in and play the odd game? Yeah, of course you can. But can you play consistently at the level that Manning wants in the way that he wants? This high press, running, all action style, which is drawing a lot of plaudits. Yeah. Now, if you can, I think you're going to struggle to get in the team. Yeah. And I think he's the type of fella that's going to be quite ruthless about it. I mean, when we met him, that's how he struck me, that he knows what he wants, and by hook or by crook, he's going to get it.
He's going to get it. Okay, Mark, it was interesting hearing Chris Honor's comments after the game and alluding to what Ian just said with that chance where Bird put the ball across. And Chris Honor said, Mehmeti should just throw himself at that, didn't he? But he gave the defender every opportunity to get the ball clear. You know, he really should have, because that ball fizzed across inside the 6-yard area. And then, you know, we go 2-0 up and it is game over at that point of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, and if we look at the start of the move, Sykes plays the ball behind the left back. I don't know if it was De Silva or Bidwell still, and Bird's left him for dead. Beautiful ball in behind. Bird plays it across, and I think Mayulu takes he takes Binks to the near post to create that space. But by the time it gets to the far post, Mehmeti's actually got goal side of Latabodier. He just needs to get his weight coming forward onto the ball, and he can push it into the because the goalkeeper's out of the picture. All he has to do is push it into the net, and he didn't even get any contact on it. And Latabodier puts it out for a corner. So he's just got to get a contact. I don't know if if he was looking to put it in with his left, but he just got to go put some momentum on it. I mean, like I said, you know, coming from watching games in the 70s when I started watching City, forwards would go slide in because pitches would allow you to do that. They'd be churned up by then. And you could just slide on your back and your momentum, took the ball into that. But it's just so powder puff.
Yeah,
He
I
just
mean that's
looks
a sort
awful.
of slide in at the far post. This is
Yeah,
really going
but I
back
mean,
years.
like I said,
Bobby
great.
Gould used to score goals like that, didn't he? Do you remember?
Yeah,
Bobby
and
Gould?
Garland. I've seen Garland do it
Yes,
like
Gould,
that. Joe Jordan, would risk
yeah,
injury just to get the ball in the net. It was all
yeah,
about scoring. But
yeah.
look at the move. The move's brilliant. Lovely pass by Sykes, Bird, Mayulu's run, takes the
Some
player,
of the
takes
football,
defender
some of the
near
football
post.
really,
Should
really,
score.
really good. Some of the football. Tom, I said Mehmeti contributed the square root of all in the second half.
Yeah.
And when Hirakawa comes back, I mean, Ian said that, Sykes upped his game, and I thought he did play quite well yesterday. But, Mehmeti, he's not stepping up, is he? There's not enough there. He's almost becoming Calamo Dowder-esque in terms of one good game in 5, and that's being generous.
I think Sykes upped his game because he had to. I think he's got the threat of Earthy behind him. I think Mehmeti has a bit of a chip on his shoulder, maybe, around the way he wants to do it. And I think he's the way we've coached Mehmeti, we've sort of taken that maverick that, to quote Pearson when he came in, that we've taken that maverick away from him because it's quite hard to build a team around that when you're just like, right, we'll do 10 players and then Anis will give him the ball and he can do what he wants. Football's not like that in the Championship. It's a collective 11 men need to work together. It's not just give it to Anis, let him do what he wants because he's the maverick. I think he lacks a ruthlessness around his game. He lacks a goal-scoring intent for me. That I think in the way he positions and the way he attacks the ball, I think he can do a step over, he can cut inside, and it's like, wow, brilliant.
Yeah.
But running across the back, and that's what Sykes is good at.
Yeah.
If the ball had been reversed from the left side to the right, Sykes would have got there at the back post because those are the goals he scored. I remember he scored numerous in that 4-2 against Birmingham.
Yeah.
Where it's that ball across the box, and that's all of Sykes' goals are from that. And Mehmeti is so frustrating because you can see there's such a talented on-the-ball player there. I mean, he's made defenders look stupid in the way he can sometimes get at them one-on-one. It was up against, for me, I would say, top 2 right-backs in the league in Van Uwijk. I absolutely love Van Uwijk. I think he was fantastic again yesterday. And every time I see him, he's sort of an all-action right-back. And I think he's good going forward and he's good defensively. So it's a challenge, but you have to change your game. You need to adapt your game, like Twine does coming inside. Anis, what he gets the ball and he dribbles, and he always is waiting for the defender to make a mistake to capitalise on. But in the Championship, defenders aren't always going to make mistakes. They're not going to commit early. And if you stand Anis up, he's not going to go anywhere because Anis capitalises off, there's an opening there, he cuts inside, he cuts it back. If you just stand there, Anis doesn't do anything. He sort of dribbles, loses it. And I don't think he's got the willingness to get back and win the ball.
And I would say with Hirakawa coming in after the international break or being in the squad and Sykes up in his game, Anis is going to struggle to get a place on the bench at this rate.
Does he make an impact off the bench though? I don't.
No, I just think you do. How many wide players do you have?
Yeah, I mean you've got to think Sam Bell as well when he comes back from injury. I know that's going to be a while off, but then you've got 3 players that can play left wing. And if he's playing Twine now off the left, I can't see Hirakawa displacing Twine. So then you've got Hirakawa on the right, and you've got real
nice selection problems to have.
But I can't think of Anis as being one. I think he will be like Gardner Hickman in time, and because he was close to leaving, wasn't he?
Yeah, and Gardner Hickman suffering the same fate here that he did at West Brom. You don't really know what his best position is. Okay, well the equalising goal. Came. I'll come to you on that in a moment, Mark, on the goal from the Coventry take on it and the handbags that took place after. Ian, the goal, it had to be Casey Palmer, didn't it? And it was unfortunate that it was I wouldn't say a poor clearance from George, but it bounced off his chest and it just landed nicely for him, didn't it?
I mean, it was... I can't remember 2 other clear opportunities apart from the one at the end where the lad got past Naismith, got towards the box, and then he totally scuffed his shot across the goal. But apart from that, apart from the goal, and he had no chance with that, Max didn't have a save to make. So it was, did George blot his copybook there? Well, yeah, possibly. But I think people are being harsh. I mean, the key thing for me was that Zach Viner was drawn out of position because he was out chasing the cross and he didn't stop the cross coming in. and with him out of position, let's be honest, we ain't the tallest side in the world, despite signing some big uns. So it would be, I think it'd be churlish to criticise too much, but yeah, it was probably the one clear chance that Coventry had, because I remember the game against Coventry last year, and we could have been 4-0 down after about 25 minutes. They hit the bar, the post, and I think they hit the post again, and then put a couple over the bar that they should have scored. And we were getting absolutely annihilated. And then Taylor Gardner-Hickman took a free kick, and Rob Dickie scored with a header. And although we were better second half, Coventry, if they'd have won that game 4-5-1, I don't think we could have had any complaints. So,
and that was the infamous coming back up. Sorry, and that was the infamous coming back after the international break when we were so-called deconditioned, because it was awful that game, and that was a lucky 3 points, if there is such a term.
And we played 3-5-2 and looked like a team of strangers. But does that show how far we've come in a year? And possibly it does. So I mean, I think overall, I think Coventry probably deserved a point based on their second half performance. Certainly not the first. And we did the same thing at Hull, as you pointed out, Dave. If you don't put a side away when you're dominating, there's always a chance that that sort of thing's going to happen. Someone's going to make a mistake. Somebody's going to score a worldie. And when you've got quality players, there's absolutely no doubt Coventry have got quality players. That's more likely to happen than if you're playing somebody that's going to be in the bottom three.
Yeah. Okay, Mark, I looked at replays of the goal, and you can't blame George Tanner. I just think it was unfortunate the way the ball hit him on the chest and bounced away from him. So it would be churlish to be critical of him in that respect. And it was a poke sort of shot, another chip shot, because it ended up in the top of the net without a great deal of power. But handbags afterwards, what was all that about? I haven't looked at that in detail, and I know Mark's going to have a view on it as well, because he was behind the goal. But what was your take on the brawl that seemed to develop?
Well, let's just look at the goal very quickly, because Mason Clark swings it in with his left, and I think Binks is at the back post, and out jumps Mark Sykes and Jason Knight and heads the ball down. And I think Tanner's looking to shield the ball and clear it, and it bounces off his chest. But Palmer's onto the ball really quickly. He's still got work to do, because there are players behind George Tanner, and to hit that up into the goal, as soon as he gets, he's ready to shoot. That's it. So Palmer goes off on his knee slide celebration. If you're looking from the south stand on the left hand side, then there's something going on behind the goal between Williams and Adji Wright. I mean, Williams got his arm up round his neck, and it must be going up, because Adji Wright must be several inches taller than most people on the pitch. And I don't know what started it. I mean, I thought you're supposed to exchange shirts at the end of the game, and there was still plenty of injury time. So I don't know where the ball is, whether they were trying to stop the ball going back to centre circle. But there's all this wrestling going on, and the referee's right there. It's not the referee somewhere else. He's right next to those two players. So he books both of them when they walk back to the centre circle. But like I said, Casey Palmer's off doing his knee slide. The fans are cheering, and this all-in wrestling's going on behind the goal. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
To the crowd, Casey Palmer, when he's walking back to the centre.
I don't know what I got into Williams' head, but I mean, I don't think it can be upgraded because he was booked. I think that nips it in the bud, unless there was any. I think the only you could only do that in this if there was any dissent or something like that. If he said anything to the referee going down the tunnel, that they could do that. But because it was for the offence, it's a yellow only. But it's just so stupid. Why get involved in that?
What did you think?
Why do it?
So Hadji Wright picks up the ball to stop a quick restart, and Williams tries to take the ball back off him. Obviously, Hadji Wright keeps it from him. Williams gets him in a headlock and then throws a punch. And he throws a punch. Well, he throws this forearm that could easily be interpreted as a punch, and it's nothing less than a red card. And how he stayed on the pitch was completely
in front of the referee.
In front of the referee, but as the referee, like Mark said, has booked him, you can't retrospectively ban him for it. because it could easily have been a 4 or 5 match ban for violent conduct for Williams. But because the referee's seen it on the pitch and he's dealt with it in his opinion on the pitch, you can't ban him.
And if there's VAR, does that
straight red?
Straight red.
Yeah.
Because there's a word in the referee's ear saying that's violent conduct.
You can upgrade it on the pitch, whereas on the Championship,
right?
You know, and I think it also helped the linesman being on the opposite side.
Yeah, because he was totally
because if that's in front of the linesman, I think he confers with the linesman,
and then he's off.
But it's that lack of control, that total lack of control. You can't lose it like that, can you? Just can't do it.
I mean, Tom. I mean, Joe, when he was playing for Wigan, which is why we bought him, and when he wasn't injured, he got a load of bookings and sendings off, and we brought him in for that gritty style. You could argue he cost us a point up at Hull on the opening day of the season with a rash challenge. A Joe Williams that's firing, he's always got that hot-headedness there that maybe Jason Knight playing in that aggressive, sort of holding, tackling midfield. He seems to keep himself in check. Night, doesn't he?
But he plays on the edge, Williams, and I've never seen a player for City in recent years, apart from Joe Williams, with this sort of. He almost goes into this state of mind where he just throws himself at things, and in some games it works. I mean, I go back to West Ham last season. He was man of the match because he plays with this fire that Premier League sides don't like. It's all soft and, you know, VAR, whatever, but you come down and Joe Williams is absolutely nailing you, and he frustrated Ben Rama into getting Ben Rama sent off.
Oh yeah.
And he plays on the fine line, but he does get it wrong, and he needs to work on. I mean, the one at Hull you could say was an on pitch error, so that's unfortunate. The one yesterday is just stupid. That's just plain stupidity. The ball's dead. There's, you know, those actions there make absolutely no difference to the game, and he could have easily got us down to 10 men. And if we go down to 10 men,
and then
they go on top.
Right. Mark, of all things Sky Blue, you're closer to the action. I mean, you were behind the goal. Were you the right side or the linesman's side?
I was right side, but I mean, you know, in terms of that, Tom's spot on. Really, he threw, you know, in my opinion, threw a punch, and wasn't, you know, it's just like that kind of action. I would say, in my opinion, it's violent conduct. I mean, Ian was asking for apology from the PGMOL. I think we'll be asking for exactly the same for that incident, because that for me is a straight red card. And if the referee's not seeing that, or he has seen it and he's given a yellow card, I don't know what's violent conduct anymore. Really, I just thought it was a scandalous decision.
The ruling is if he sees it, and he obviously saw it because he booked them both, didn't he?
Yes,
exactly. Yeah, he gave 2 yellow cards. Yeah,
he thought they were, you know, tussling, or what Mark called that, or Dave called that, handbags. But I mean, from where I am in the ground, I haven't got a clue what went on. All I saw was 2 blokes grabbing hold of each other, and about another 10 or 15 running around him and trying to pull him out the way. But the referee saw it. He stood out the way, and he went in and he booked the 2 players. So,
and it's interesting, Ian, what you say there. The referee saw it, because the referee last week, when he gave that penalty, and as you say, he didn't get a game this weekend, he admitted that he gave it on his gut feel, and admitted after the game that it was wrong. Hence that PGMOL apology. But there we go.
We also don't forget. We also had an apology for the PGMOL for the penalty at Hull. Now, I'm a City fan, and I would have given that as a penalty all day long.
Yeah.
Right. But the referee's assessor thought it wasn't.
Yeah. It's easy to make these apologies, though.
I'm amazed. Well, I think the standard of refereeing in our first 3 games, and not just the referee, let me point out the assistant referees, or as I always call them, linesmen. Yeah. I think they're dreadful. I mean, we had a player last week, Armstrong, he's out wide. He goes to go past one of Millwall's wardrobe centre-halves and gets a forearm smash.
Yeah.
When you see it from the other side, the linesman was no more than 2 meters away. Missed it. Now, if that's the quality of the people that you've got, we're in big trouble, because the standard, you know, I mean, over those 3 games, I dread to say it, but Keith Stroud in the first game was probably the best referee we've had, and he's dreadful.
And that's
so. Yeah, that really is saying so. I never thought those words would leave my lips, but Yeah, but they're poor, and the linesmen don't help them. The number of times a linesman's 2 meters away and he's looking at the middle of the pitch to see what the referee wants to give.
I know.
Why?
No, they're the sort. I think linesmen are the sort of people that get sand kicked in their face on the beach. Because they're sort of like, oh, what's the referee going to go? Because I think there was one incident in our game yesterday where the linesman, the onus was on him, and there was a pause, and then the referee gave it, and the referee was like 50 yards away. Late on in the game, that was. Okay, so we're into time added on 9 minutes, which seemed that's the most we've had in a game added on. We'd lost all creativity when. Bird went off with 78 minutes on the clock and Sykes. Wells came on. Earthley wasn't effective because he was clattered within 5 minutes of going on. Mason Clark was wide. Asante showed Naismith a clean pair of heels. You almost won it at the death mark, didn't you, really? A couple of chances there. Were the fans sort of disappointed with Asante? And what's their view on Asante, having signed him from Hull a couple of weeks or so ago?
West Brom,
yeah.
He almost went to Hull.
Yeah. No, we got him from. I think Hull were interested. That is true. Yeah, he's been pretty good for us. I'd say he's been quite lively. He's an upgrade on Matty Godden, who we sold to Charlton. He's got bundles of energy. He's quite strong as well. I think it would have been fantastic if had he put that chance away right at the death. Although it wasn't easy. I would say. I mean, as Ian rightly said, he did scuff it wide and. I think after that, obviously that was it then. But he's a good striker. I think he'll probably start in the cups. I imagine he'll be starting for us against Oxford in the League Cup. So
our fans, and we were saying on this podcast just a few moments ago, and in other games, would you start with Asante and Sims, like people are calling for us to start with Mayulu and Armstrong? Do you think Mark Robbins would make that sort of decision?
Unlikely. He generally likes to go one up front. He did start off. We did go that route. Start of last season, we went 2 up front, and we found we weren't getting sort of the best out of our players with that formation. So he generally likes to play a kind of 4-5-1 / 4-3-3. So the 2 wingers kind of bomb a bit further forward as like a another kind of striker, I guess. So that's generally what he does. And we found that we got the best out of Hadji Wright by playing him out on the left, not through the centre. So I think that's generally the formation Robin tends to stick with.
Yeah. Okay, Mark, there's lots of parallels between Coventry and Bristol City. I mean, you had that very extended spell in the top flight for, 30 years, I guess, maybe more than that. And you've had your problems. You've not played. You've been homeless from time to time. The club's been homeless, not you. What's the current situation now? You've got a new owner who paid off 70 million of debt. Is that right? Yeah.
So he's paid off the debt from the previous owner, Sisu, who obviously are gone now. And we've got, I believe, a 10-year lease with the Frasers Group, which is owned by a guy that Mike Ashley, probably a lot of people would know. I mean, at the moment we've got a fairly long-term agreement with the Frasers Group, and what will happen in the future, who knows? I mean, it would be nice if we could own the ground, because obviously things like food and drink behind the ground is not going to the club, it's going to the Frasers Group. So it would be nice. It would be nice if that situation changes.
And how much, if I can ask, you may not know, how much do you pay as an annual rent to Fraser Group, Mike Ashley, for want of a better, who's the landlord in effect? But what's the annual rental on that, or is that not in the public domain?
I don't know the answer to that question. No, I don't know.
Figures being bandied around by the fan base at all, or not really? Not really,
no. But I think all we care about is that we're playing our games there, and how long's the agreement with? At the moment, I believe it's 10 years. So, and I think the situation is, well, I think it will be fine in the long term. I think there was a problem between Ashley and the previous owners, but since Doug King come on board, it's been a fairly solid, amicable relationship, I believe. So I think in the long term we'll be playing at the CBS. It is our home ground now, and I don't see that changing.
And you've got 21,000 season ticket holders. against our 14 to 15, that shows, you're confident of getting a top 6 spot this season, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the fans that you speak to will say that. Even some fans will say that, within my podcast that we can get to the top 2. I mean, I'm very sceptical of that because I feel we need to improve defensively to get to that point. But I think for Mark Robins, we need to get top 6 this season. I think we've spent a lot of money on players, and I think for the first time this, in his tenure at the club, he can't really sort of hide behind. We trying to gel players into the side, or we haven't got much money to play with because obviously we're in the League One days. We had, hardly any money to spend, and this is the first time we've really had to spend a bit of money to strengthen the side. I think, as I say, we've spent a lot of money on attacking players, but we haven't really strengthened defensively, and that's my concern. I think that's the thing that I'm worried about in terms of our potential of getting promoted this season. But I think the Championship as a whole is not as strong as it was last season. I think if you look at the sides that went up, I'd say Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton were all really good sides. I think if you look at the teams coming down from the Prem, obviously you've seen Burnley have lost yesterday. You've seen Sheffield United and Luton all dropping points as well. So I think it's going to be a much more competitive Championship league this season. So I think it's just a case of if you can just get on a run of games and win a 3 or 4 or 5 on the trot, I think you can really challenge this season. Yeah. I think it's quite an open league, and it just goes to show. You look at the top 2. You got Sunderland and Watford, and I don't think none of us sitting here would have believed that they would be the top 2 sides after the first 3 games.
No, and it's early days yet. I mean, you've seen us twice now at close quarters. You've also played an inconsistent Stoke and a newly promoted Oxford United. Lost against one and beat the other. What's your perception of us? Do you see us as top 6, or we're pushing arguably for 9th and upwards and encroaching into the top 6? Maybe too early to say yet, having only seen 2 other sides.
Yeah, I think Bristol City are definitely a side that can challenge this season for the playoff spots. From what I've seen, I think they're a good side. I think you do need a few players to stay fit. I think Rob Dickey, I think, is very important to back. Very solid defender. Not much gets past him. Sinclair Armstrong, I sort of said on the previous side, it kind of reminds me of an Emil Heskey type striker, big, strong centre forward who will cause problems. And I think he's a good signing. And obviously, you sold Tommy Conway to Middlesbrough, which kind of surprised me because I thought he was a decent striker, but obviously he wanted to move on. But yeah, I think the Robins will definitely, are capable of getting a top 6 finish. So that's why I felt yesterday was important that we didn't lose. So that's why I was quite happy.
Well, it'd be cracking if we got you in the playoffs. That would be good. All right, great, Mark. Great to have you on. We'll be wrapping up in a moment, but some great input there. Always good to hear fans, intelligent fans' view from of themselves and of us. Final piece from each of you, starting with you, Ian. Last week of the transfer window, you're expecting some activity. We've got to be confident going up to Derby, and you wouldn't have said this X years ago, but Derby, they're not, they've been in a bit of a mess, but we've got to be confident of building on our unbeaten start, would you say, next weekend?
I'm looking forward to it, Dave, providing we can keep the players fit. That's the only caveat I'm going to put on any of this is we need, dealing with the 2 things, the transfer window. It's up 11 p.m. on the 30th. I think we need to bring a good centre back in before that to bolster the squad. There may be 1 or 2 senior players leaving, but clubs aren't exactly knocking our door down with interest. So unless we get any bids really strange, out of left field, Palace come in at the last minute and offer us 15-20 million pound for somebody, I don't think there'll be many outgoings. Might be some loans if we can bring a centre back in of the younger players going out. Going up to Derby, I think we got there with confidence. Return home for, as Mark said, for Knight, Bird, and Aidan Roberts. If he's playing, I think he'd definitely be in the squad. Have we got it 100% right? Yeah, I think the first half yesterday was as close as we've got, but no, not quite. So my only caveat now is I think if we bring in a centre back, then I think Liam Manning cannot say I haven't been supported by the board. He has been. Okay, we've had to sell a couple of players to do it, and that's going to continue. But I think injuries are the only thing that will stop us having a really decent season.
Okay, Mark, your thoughts. Ian said somebody coming in with a bid for 15 million for somebody. I don't think that's going to happen, but there were a few little whispers about Zach Viner. Crystal Palace lost 2-0 at home to.
That was Cobblers, Dave.
It was Cobblers. All right. I mean, do you
Yeah.
see any names going out this week, Mark? And do you have the confidence that we seem to be exuding for next week's game at Pride Park?
We got a really good platform to build on. The way that we've dominated games in terms of possession and created opportunities, we don't see that. Normally, City only win games previously when we've had less possession. We just don't. The more we had the ball, the worse we were. But I think we built a platform. We need a central defender, either loan to buy or buy if we can. I could see Cornick going out on loan if somebody can afford his wages. Maybe we subsidise it. People talk about Naismith going. Who's going to want to bring a player in who's got an injury record like his
and high wages as well?
Only Campbell. Maybe Campbell Slowey going out on loan, the youngsters. But I think our only big assets, really, saleable assets, you maybe want to buy other clubs. Zach Viner, I think with his game management, sometimes I don't think he could play at Premier League level, and maybe Cam Pring, but no, can't see it myself. So young players, and we've got to get that centre back.
Yeah, we got to get that centre back. Tom, your thoughts on incomings, outgoings, and we are being entertained. It is front foot. We're playing with a method now, aren't we? But two things: the transfers in or out, and confident about going up to Derby.
Well, I'm going. So,
you're going?
Yeah, going. So got a good turnout. I think it's like 3,000 there we're taking. So that will be hopefully a good day out. I think you've got to be confident in the way that we play. I know Derby, they've got an ability like newly promoted sides do to pick up points when the odds are against them. I mean, you look at their game against Middlesbrough, that they had one shot in and scored. Middlesbrough about 29 and didn't. But transfer-wise, it's tough because, like Ian says, you need teams to want the players that you're offering. Because Cornick, you're not going to get championship offers for Cornick.
No.
You're going to look to League One clubs, and League One clubs will look at it and go, "Can we afford the wages for the player we're getting?
Yeah.
And will he be fit?
What quality does Cornick bring that we couldn't get? From other options. Naismith, the only way I could see him going is next year on a free. I don't think anyone would come in with an offer of money.
Is his contract up at the end of the season?
Sorry, at the end of the season. Yeah. I think sellable assets, like you say, Viner. I don't see what Cam Pring this season. I must admit, I think he's lost a yard of pace. I really think Cam Pring is lost. I mean, players are beating him now for pace. Quick wingers, they're guaranteed. It's not anyone, but you didn't see that. It was sort of our championship Carl Walker last season.
They gave him a hard time last week, didn't they?
Yeah, I think he might have lost it. But yeah, I know Cornick's been linked to Charlton, has been put in check with the Nathan Jones link. But I don't know. We need a centre back. We do need a centre back. But do we get a lone centre back? I'm not sure because I think I'm conscious of blocking a pathway of youngsters coming to it. And Nightabell. I mean,
they're both defenders.
Campbell
Slowey
is 18 years of age.
Right.
He will not play in the championship this season unless it is in the final 2 or 3 games this year. He's only played under 18 football really beforehand. He needs a season with the 21s. I would be shocked if he doesn't stay in house. I will be really, really surprised if he goes out on loan because he needs to play 21s football. You'd be playing people that have played first team football at the 21s that have dropped down or are breaking through. And it's a good level that the 21s play at. So I'll be really surprised if people like Mearholz and Campbell Slowey, who are only 18, get sent out on loan.
You think they'll stay?
I think they'll stay
get experience.
For a season.
Trying to play in 11 against first team players would just keep them.
Not even at national league level.
they might get 1 month, 2 month loans to National South to but I don't think, in truth, they're ready for national level. National League is a good level of football, and I think the players we send there are usually 2 or 3 years older, like the Raffareos and the Seb Palmer Holdens. I think the early 20s/late teens. I mean, they've only just turned 18. And that's a good group, that under 18 group, and you always keep them together so they continue to bond. And they do have this 21 season together. So I'll be really surprised if any of that 18s group that are now progressing into 21s get sent out on loan personally. But
So that is a real pathway, so that there's a real method. So there's a real method in the way that they're developing. Yeah,
guys, we've had a good session. It's good to have the input of Mark from All Things Sky Blue. Couple of things. 60th anniversary this week of the first broadcast of Match of the Day. I think it was Liverpool versus Arsenal. Kenneth Woolston on the commentator. That's our opening music for this episode, if you've listened to it on Spotify. And Kenneth Woolston home describing Liverpool as Beatlesville, obviously, because that was at the height of Beatles mania back in the mid-60s. Also, advance happy birthday greetings to City manager Alan Dix, who was appropriately awarded by the Former Players Association with a cap, which we saw at the Senior Reds, a nicely put together cap in a display case. And Alan, 90 years old on the 29th of August this week, and he came into the club October 1967 as a 33-year-old, schooled under Jimmy Hill, and still the only man to take us to the top flight in the last 90, 80 odd, well, 100.
100 years.
The last 100 years, because we were 110.
Got to be our youngest ever manager, Dave.
I think you're probably right, yeah. 33. I mean, it was...
Was he older than Lee Johnson?
I think he was.
Yeah, he was,
Yeah, I think Jono was older than 33 when he came in.
But I mean, back in the day, that was a very brave decision, because Fred Ford, very experienced head, got boot after a 4-2 home defeat against Blackpool that was on Match of the Day, which you can still find that on YouTube if you hunt around. And in came Alan Dix, and it took him 9 years to get there with us, and he had a lot of bumps along the road. But visionary by Harry Dolman to bring in a manager of potential, and obviously a lot of history between Coventry and Bristol City, 1977. We all know about that. So it was somewhat apt that he got that award from the club yesterday, and clapped onto the pitch, not only by the fans, but about 4 or 5 members of the team that was the one that took City to the top flight, which we all hope we're going to do this season. But as Liam Manning said after the interview yesterday, there's 43 games to go. We've not got to be interrupted by Carabao Cup or anything like that. We're looking forward to Derby. We'll be doing our Derby match review either Sunday morning or Saturday, depending. I haven't worked that one out yet. But Mark, Tubby, Ian, Tom, thank you for your input today, and everybody that's tuned in. The numbers are going up week by week, so thanks a lot for that. And everybody, have a great week, and we'll see you all again soon. All the best. Bye now.
Bye.
Have a great bank
Cheers
holiday,
all.
everybody.